work out for them. I definitely didn't recommend the decision to play a top Finn, but they did try it out, and it was something that we definitely saw was as off meta pick. So it's very interesting to see these lower tier and high tier teams try these different compositions.
Yeah, absolutely. And it does look like we are ready to start drafting now. Looks like we've already got a Kestrel ban coming out, first ban here. I mean, you saying you know the teams pretty well, you know the players pretty well. Do you expect any of these players to any of their comfort picks out this game, or do you think they may be trying something new, something fresh?
I'm not 100% sure on what their strategy going into this draft, but Kestrel is definitely a strong hero that can be flexed on multiple lanes and in the jungle, and on multiple divergent paths, whether that be crystal or weapon. So it's definitely an overall good pick to see.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely. And we see Lyra first pick um, coming out here, and followed up by Kinetic. What are your thoughts? Do you think that's a good counter,
Um, I think I'm not necessarily sure that Kinetic is a good counter, more as a strong overall hero that people haven't exactly adapted to her playstyle. And that's some of the things I've seen through the EU scene and the NA scene is people don't know exactly what to do with her abilities, and they don't know exactly what to do against her abilities. So that won't be an issue in this match, but I definitely think she's a strong hero, and she can definitely give a lot of potential for the NA rejects.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree. It's something that Kinetic is kind of in that limbo state. That some people really kind of bashing her, saying she's not good at any point. She's not good weapon or crystal, while other people seem to really know how to make her work and really abuse the fact that not a lot of people know exactly how to play against her. And that's something that I really like seeing, is how these players just kind of make the most out of it. And with Kinetic, she's just one of those characters that if you know how to play her, you can really make the most out of that decision.
Exactly. And two really strong pickups we see here. NA Rejects picks up the Adagio, while Hammers picks up the Fortress. So both really strong heroes who are normally roams, but they both can be flexed into the jungle for Fortress or into that lane position for the Adagio. And they are both very meta heroes that are coming up in the meta. I feel like Fortress is, and Adagio is more prevalent. We've seen throughout different patches, but Fortress has been behind in 3v3, but as he came into 5v5 with those 5 wolves, he provided a lot of engaged potential for teams.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mentioned this last time I casted here on the stream, is that with Fortress, something I personally enjoy going is I like picking up Pulse Sweep on Fortress. It's something that is really, really fun to do. You just move around the map so incredibly fast when you pick up Pulse Sweep on her or him, kind of depending on what gender you like to refer him to. But yeah, it's really, really fun. I like doing it. I played a jungle Fortress when I picked up the Pulse Sweep. So I was able to really make those maneuvers in the jungle and just kind of move around so quickly and just kind of make those rotations. And I was kind of in every lane at once during every opportunity.
Exactly. I have a question for you. So of the new items that were introduced, as we get a Glaive pickup from NA Rejects, what do you think is probably your most favorite of the new items that were introduced?
When my wife supports, we play a lot together. So she plays support main. So I really like when she picks up Capacitor Plate, but it's also my least favorite of the new items because it's just making the meta for supports for that one item specifically. And that's something that I don't really like too much. But favorite item I would probably say Pulse Sweep, just because that gives it brought a lot of freshness to the game, and a lot of characters that previously were incredibly immobile or they lost their viability due to their immobility, they gained back because of the Pulse Weave. and that was something that I really appreciated, kind of being able to shake that up and bring a lot of those, as we were talking about before, off meta picks, kind of bringing them back as not quite off meta, but also not quite meta. They're kind of in that middle zone.
Yeah, so far in this draft, we haven't seen very off meta picks, with Hammers picking up that Samuel and that Reza. Some very standard mid lane heroes for Samuel and top lane for that Reza. NA Rejects picks up that Scarf, which is a little interesting. Whether that's going to be going into mid lane, I most likely think. It's just interesting to find out where this kinetic is going to be going into these roles. But as we see a ban out of Hammers, is Finn. Not sure if that's troll or not, but Finn is questionable, but it's just their last ban. So we see the Sky come out from NA Rejects as their last ban. And we're going to get to see what Hammer's last pick is here. Do you have any predictions for what they're going to be picking?
I do not actually. I mean, I don't.
There it is. There's your favorite guy.
Yeah, exactly. Idris is always incredibly fun to watch, as I said before. So I'm really excited to see that. And how are you feeling about the final pick on NA Reject side?
I definitely think they might need more of a tankier hero in their position, and it looks like they might be going. Nope, so they're going to go with the Alpha. So it looks like it's going to be a Roam Adagio, which is all fine and dandy, but I would have preferred to see that weapon power Adagio and maybe pick up a Arden or something else, but definitely a different position for a Roam, and I wouldn't have preferred that Adagio. I would have had a weapon power Adagio. But the Alpha is good for some of the team fights, and they have that dive that they could be using to counter the Fortress dive.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's definitely going to be really exciting. I'm glad to see what we've got going on here, see where they take these characters, what they're going to be, what items they're going to be picking up for the starter here. So looks like we are ready to get into the game. Teams are all ready and fired up here. So we will see you guys here on Sovereign's Rise here in just a moment. We just have a quick message from our sponsors before the game starts.
The battle for Sovereign's Rise has begun.
Hello and welcome. Today is a beautiful day on the Sovereign Rise. We are joined today with the Hollywood Hammers versus the NA Rejects. And today in this matchup, we're going to see a lot of amazing gameplay with a very typical and meta rosters from both teams. And we're going to start off with some small engagements in the mid lane.
Yeah, absolutely. So we just see a little bit of poke coming out here. You know, looks like Lyra is just trying to get some last hits, assist that, you know, Samuel on that here, and it's just gonna be really, really slow, which is, you know, definitely something we've seen kind of in the last few games. Starts off slow for those first couple of waves, and then hopefully the action will pick up shortly after that, as we've seen in the past.
Exactly. So we're just having some standard rotations to these weapon and crystal buffs. Nothing out of the ordinary, no real big damage trades, and we just have a very even gold spread with Hammers having just a small lead gold-wise after the first few minutes.
Yep, exactly. And it looked like Archaic and Mish wanted to go ahead and go in, but the Lost Boy Toph did go ahead and throw out the Spitfire to kind of push them back there. We're not able to get that jump in there. They were a little bit too scared of that level 2 Scarf coming out.
So what do we think of this Scarf skin we got here on Sovereign's Rise? This rainbow scarf.
Yeah, that looks like the orange tabby one, which is, wow, he's already level 50 on his Sunlight, which is pretty fast. I myself wish I had the time to be level 50 already to get that orange tabby skin. I tend to spend money myself on Vainglory quite a bit, so I did buy the $50 bundle for the 4th of July for the 18,000 ice, and I picked myself up the white version of the skin, and I gotta say I love it. I like the little cute rainbow tail he's got going on, and something I noticed with this particular skin is if he taunts, he actually has little stars coming up from his fire pool when he uses his taunt. Oh, let's see here. Oh, we got an engage going in top lane here. Oh, Heza just manages to dash out. They couldn't quite get the afterburn to knock him out from the turret range there. Was able to save him. Oh, looks like we may have a dive coming in back lane, but Yugi is definitely aware of it here. Put that ward right over the wall, which is great positioning there instead of in the bush, throwing it right there on the edge of that tree end. It looks like it's just outside of the range of their scout cam right there in the jungle shop, which is really well placed by Yugi here.
Exactly. So the gold is less than 100 difference in Hammer's favored, so NA Rejects have definitely brought that small difference back and tied it up, so which is good to see. It's one of the big things that we see in higher level gameplay is they want to make sure they stay consistent throughout the match, because that gold can really get carried away from you in this 5v5 matchup.
Oh yeah, I absolutely agree. Something we saw in mini pass games is once a team starts getting a gold lead 1 or 2k, in the next few minutes, all of a sudden it's a 6 or 7k gold lead coming out of nowhere. So definitely good on both teams, kind of keeping that spread not too far apart, not too close. Neither team wanting to give a advantage. And it looks like we do have some battling going on. Sean almost gets taken down, but he does afterburn out. No longer has the charge. Go ahead.
It's just these fights over these buffs. In 5v5, they're so crucial to have these CP and weapon buffs. So we're going to continually see these fights break out. And no one really wants to engage here, and no one actually wants to take the fight, as we see a fight break out on the top.
Yeah, he did. We do see Papa John prime directive in. Didn't quite get any kind of damage. They just managed to walk right out of it here. But we do see Scarf pulling down Lyra for that first blood here. And let's go ahead. And it looks like they're all just going to back off at this point and just go back to their typical jungle rotation. So NA Rejects getting that first blood on the Lyra there. Looks like Ali just stayed a little bit too long in that fight there and just kind of lost his life for it.
Yeah, it's one of the things that happens with the roams is you got to be the first one to stay in that fight, and you got to be the last one to stay in the fight. You got to make sure everyone stays up. So it's very typical to see that roam go down, and it's not a big deal if your roam goes down early game, and that's one of the heroes you'd rather have go down rather than your mid lane carry.
Oh, absolutely, and I definitely agree. That's one of the things that I've always appreciated about any support that I have is when they're willing to just jump right in and they're not afraid to lose their life in a fight to save an ally. That's one thing that I've seen. When I was climbing the ranks and the low tiers, that's one thing you don't see too often. We got a little bit of damage coming on to Yugi on the bottom lane here. Is getting pretty low. Looks like Archaic is wanting to kind of wrap around, but he just decides, looks like they may just take the turret instead, and he may walk out of his life, but it looks like that bottom turret is going to be going down here.
It's definitely a smart call by them to not chase after the kill and just go for that turret. The turret is worth so much more gold, and those objectives are very crucial throughout the time of the match, from the early game to the late game. So you want to make sure you have that objective lead, which Hammers does right now, so kudos to them, but it looks like the top turret may be going down right here.
Yeah, no, it's not going down. It looks like, you know, uh, Rez may get a double kill, and he does. Wow. They just went a little bit too aggressive. Thought they had the damage, but Alpha did lose the reboot pretty early on there from taking just one too many tower shots. Wasn't able to kind of weave in and out of that range quite as well as they were hoping it looked like.
Yeah, Drami is very talented on that Reza, it looks like. Maybe one of his comfort picks, but it was also a misplay by NA Rejects. Diving under the turret and going into your reboot as an alpha is not what you want to be doing, because while you're rebooting, you're going to be constantly getting bombarded by the turret, so it's not the best call to dive in that situation when she was such low on health. It was a 2v1 situation, and he was able to take both kills. Kudos to him for that. But it was not the fight that NA Rejects were wanting, as they already just lost that bottom turret.
Yeah, exactly. And, as we had mentioned before with the gold lead here, coming out just a couple minutes after we last looked at it really even, and it looks like Hammers is already starting off with, the 1.5, 1.8k gold lead now.
Exactly. It just shows that you got to be so careful and know your power spikes and when you should be fighting and where you should be fighting. Because if you lose this gold league like they're just doing right now, they just got the Ghost Wing, you're losing even more gold, so now they're down behind 2k, and you got to constantly make this up, and you got to be constantly aware, and you can't lose faith in what's happening. So we see NA Rejects almost get this top turret, but Papa John is going to go down, it looks like, up here in the top lane.
Yeah, absolutely, and he definitely does. I think that was a phenomenal play by Drami here. Watching what he did is he wasn't trying to push them off, he wasn't trying to deal damage, but he just cleared out their waves, so that way his turret got back the backdoor protection barrier on it, and they were forced to back off, and he was able to pick up a kill off of it again.
And he almost gets another kill on that glaive. If he would have dove a little further, that fortress would have been up there a little earlier. But it does look like they're going to get that second turret in the top lane, so it was definitely worth his trouble up there.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Mish looks like he's taking a 2-on-1. He may get the double, and wow, he goes ahead and picks up both Alpha and Yugi on that kinetic.
It just shows how powerful that Idris is, like you were saying earlier in the stream during the draft process. It's one of your favorite heroes, and it is for that reason. It's so strong. And it's so versatile in its mobility and its damage once it scales up.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just kind of one of those characters that, it just snowballs so quickly and so easily here. As we see, he's 4-0, 9 minutes into the game, and he's got Sorrow Blade and Poison Shiv, and he is just putting out the damage left and right.
NA Rejects does get their first turret to go down in that top lane against Drami, even though he's able to take their turret and so many more kills against NA Rejects.
Yeah, they did. I mean, that's their first turret of the game. At least it's putting them on the board, though, so that's definitely one thing. And wow, Prime Directive coming in, and the shot from downtown coming from Adagio, taking down Mish. Stayed a little bit too far, taking one too many tower shots.
Yeah, Mixu definitely went down there. He dove a little too far. So it was an even 1-for-1 trade for Hammers and NA Rejects. But it was more in favor of Hammers because look at that turret damage. And the turret is going to go down right here. So Hammers is doing everything almost perfectly. It is 8-2, and they do drop that glaive on the top lane. He just can't get out and doesn't have that afterburn to escape. So they're just picking him off one by one and just moving from kill to objective to kill to objective. So they're playing how you should be playing, and we definitely want to see this gameplay in the VPL summer season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if they keep this up, they definitely are going to be looking really strong, not only in NACL, but as you're saying, hopefully in VPL when summer season starts up,
And it looks like there's going to be uncontested Ghost Wing capture here. NA Rejects is making the move down here, so they do see what's going on. And we have a small little skirmish breaking out, but NA Rejects does look like it's a better idea to back off after that Ghost Wing does get secured by Hammers.
Yeah, all they wanted to do was show North American Rejects that they weren't afraid to fight, even though they just took Ghost Wing, they were down. They just showed them they weren't afraid to fight, and that's all it took for North American Rejects to be just backing off.
Exactly. What do you feel? Are you familiar with McShee and his past in Vainglory?
I am not, no.
So he was on TSM for a while. He is on Hammers now, and he was on a few other teams. He's been moving around a lot. But what do you feel about his position right now in Hammers? Because he is currently sitting at that 5-1 with that Idris weapon power, and he's been performing really well. It looks like he's coming back to where he was when he ended his career on TSM. It looks like he's definitely improving a lot, and that 5v5 is more of a fit for him than 3v3.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking at it here from, and again, this is my first time personally seeing him play, but it definitely doesn't look like he missed a beat. You know, if he took some time off, it isn't showing in this game. You know, any kind of changes that he's made, he seems to just be flowing seamlessly right now into his new position, onto his new team. And he's just playing it so well right now. And it's got to feel good coming onto a new team, coming back into the Vainglory Pro scene, and just absolutely showing your dominance left and right.
So currently we're sitting at a Hammers controlling all of the turrets except for that little gateway turrets into NA Rejects besides their mid turret, which is about to fall here with this Black Claw push. I definitely see the game going right here as we get engagement onto Papa John.
Yeah, he tried to jump in, wanted to get a little bit of damage out, push them off, but almost lost his life for it. And Yuki coming down did manage to back off a little bit. Alpha lost his reboot and died before he can even start back up again. So it is not looking too hot for NA Rejects right now.
Wow, this is very impressive gameplay coming out from Hammers, and it just shows the power of a Lyra as your roam position and the strength of their draft. So this was their first pick hero, this Lyra, and it is performing very well for them as they're able to sustain through that whole fight. Even though they get super low, the Kinetic Ultimate is not able to even kill one of them because they're able to body block for each other, which is definitely a dying art that a lot of roams and other players will not do. In the lower tier and when you're ranking up, and it's definitely one of the things as a roam main that I recommend a lot of other roams practice, because body blocking can save your team, not only your individual player you're blocking for, but as a roam, your life doesn't matter. All your job is to do is keep the rest of your team alive, and that's exactly what Lyra is doing right here.
Yeah, absolutely, and I definitely agree. It's a dying art, and that's one thing I was mentioning earlier. Is that when I was ranking up, it's just something that you don't ever see, and that's a lot of times I had lost games ranking up from support just not wanting to engage in, having Arden going full tank and he runs away from the fight as soon as he loses like a quarter of his health and he just leaves his team to die. And then of course the whole fight's lost and now it's Arden, 1v4 or 1v3 or however many you manage to take down, and being Arden, he doesn't do any damage. So he of course can't hold anything back, and then he just you get your team steamrolled, and that's how it is with any kind of support right now. Is not about your life, as you were saying. It's all about your team's life, your damage dealers, your backline.
Exactly. So while we're getting into here, what in my prediction, what it looks like for NA Rejects to come back is they have to make up this gold differential, and to do that they need to get more vision down. They need to see where Hammers is and make sure they're not going into the wrong bush. And they need to see the objectives that they're taking. And they need to maintain their waves and make sure they get their farm up. And they need to wait into the late game when they're able to contest some of these objectives like a Black Claw and wait for their Ghost Wing buff to run out on Hammer's side.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree. They definitely need to really kind of focus down and kind of revisit their battle plan here. Their rotations are seeming weak, as we see now. Looks like we got Hammers already pushing the vision out from Black Claw, waiting for it to spawn. In the meantime, it doesn't seem like NA Rejects is looking to do anything to contest this. It almost seems like they're just going to be giving them the Black Claw here.
Exactly. This is one of the issues with it is they don't want to commit because they don't want to lose the game, but you're going to lose the game if you don't contest this objective, because with the Black Claw pushing down your lane and you don't have any mid lane turrets, you're going to have to find a fight somewhere, or you're going to have to find a steal. So they really need to get this vision down as Hammers is looking to pick up this Black Claw right here. They're all sitting around it. They're not deciding whether they want to commit right now, but in my opinion, they don't exactly know where NA Rejects is, even though they have the vision superior, but they are going to decide to commit to this Black Claw. And if NA Rejects doesn't get in here and figure this out, they're definitely going to see a game over and a 1-0 for Hammers.
Yeah, and it seems like they may just be looking to forfeit at this point in time. As we see, they're just basing back in mid lane. As I was watching as Hammers was, taking that Black Cloud, I just saw, Lost White Hoff and Chaos just sitting there and just spamming the recall. So it didn't seem like they really had any intentions of ever going down there to contest it. So I'm not quite sure what the objective with that is. It may be kind of what you were initially thinking with what they needed to do is kind of wait till the late game. So they just wanted to give them the Black Claw, wait for it to push into the lane, and just take it down to get that gold buff, or get that gold amount. And as we see an engagement here coming in, we've got quite a few people going to go. Mixi gets put down first. Alpha did lose the reboot here, and it's seeming like right now, NA Rejects is looking pretty strong in this fight. Unfortunately, Sean looking like he wanted to get behind one of the characters and knock him right back into the Nexus, and he just was unable to. Sorry, Vayne Crystal, I apologize.
So it was definitely a good fight in the earlier fight for NA Rejects. It ended up in a 2-for-2 remaining on both sides. But NA Rejects does have the base advantage where they can go and heal up. But this Samuel was full health. He easily could have taken one more with him if he would have been a little more aggressive there in that situation. But overall, NA Rejects did a good job of defending their base there. Now they just need to figure out what they're trying to capitalize on and what they need to do to stay in this game, let alone win it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so far, it looks like they're just trying to create space for Yugi. As we saw in that fight, it looked like they were just, of course, Yugi had died shortly before the fight started, but previously he was pushing bot lane. He has now taken out both turrets in the bot lane, and it looks like they're just trying to give him space to split push. This seems like this may be the strategy they're looking for, is let Yugi go on his own on that kinetic and just split push the lanes, take some turrets for some gold there, and let him gain a few more items, and then maybe try to re-engage in a 5v5 situation at a later point in the game.
And for sure, one of the things to really note is that this Hammers roster was 0-6 in the VPL preseason, but this showing right here today is 13-5 as they invade the base right here, and it looks like they're about to take down the Vayne Crystal, and they do that. It's just things to note with 0-6 in the Vainglory preseason. If they're performing this well with a new and improved roster, what do you think their standings are going to be in the upcoming VPL summer season with so many more teams and so much more competition in the North American and EU region?
It's kind of hard for me to speculate off of, like I said, I've only seen them play just this one game. Like I said, I saw NA Rejects last week. I watched their game that they played, and of course I casted it. And their showing was so much stronger than this game. So I'm not quite sure if their head wasn't quite in it, or if they were just trying out maybe something they're not quite comfortable with, trying to push their boundaries on it. But right now, they aren't showing nearly as strong as last week. But for Hammers, I'd have to see how the second game goes. If they shut this out in a 2-0 in a similar fashion to the first game, I definitely expect them to be doing incredibly well in the summer VPL season.
Yeah. One thing I really want to point out is this kinetic pickup. A lot of people are going to be focusing these newer heroes just because they have a very new set of abilities that people think is really strong. But Yuji on this kinetic went 0-4-1. So she was getting a little bullied in some 2v1 situations in the bot lane, but maybe this is not their best pick. Maybe they should choose a different hero in this situation. So going into the draft, I definitely want to see some things change up on NA Reject's side, and I want them to pick some more meta compositions, even though we really enjoy these off-meta compositions. I want to see a stronger front line from them so that they can get on the back line and have Lost White Off sit back with that Scarf and put out some damage.
Oh, yeah, I absolutely agree. I think more, instead of just focusing on the meta picks as well, they may need to play some more comfort picks. I think that's what they need to fall back on is some of their staples, rather than trying to play what's new just because it's new. Fall back onto some of that meta, some of the staples, some of their real comfort picks, something that they actually feel good playing, not something that they're playing just because it's maybe unpredictable.
Going into the draft, as you saw them in their, as what you described as a very dominating fashion for their first match of the NA season for Season 7, what do you think would be a good pick for them after you saw that matchup and everything? What do you think is a comfort pick for them?
Oh, gosh. Yuki did incredibly well last week on Scarf. He played that incredibly well, and it's just something that I think they need to. Comfort picks are kind of hard for me because, like I said, I only saw the one game, so I can't say too familiar. But I think they need to pick up the Lyra. I think that one's
the draft is going, and it looks like they NA Rejects do pick up Lyra.
Yeah. And I think that was a big player, as you were saying before. It's just towards the end of the game, Hammers just showing it how incredibly strong Lyra was showing, that they would be getting so low, and the Imperial Sigil coming out from Lyra would just push them up to 3/4 or full health. And it's just something that Lyra is just so good at right now, especially as I was saying with the capacitor plate, just really pushing out the heals. Incredible. Honestly, the best healer in the game right now, in my opinion.
I completely agree with you. And it's definitely reason to be a first pick here. And this Fortress is definitely arguably one of the really good picks as well in this roam position or in the jungle position. He's just has such a versatile kit where he can get around and just support the team. So we do see the Kinetic pickup and the Samuel. So definitely more of a standard draft that we're wanting to see, and it could be strong. So we do see the Tony ban, which is good. Tony is a good, strong front line, so it looks like they're trying to take that away from them.
Yeah, and I think Tony is incredibly good against Fortress because Fortress, I feel like, as a jungler particularly, plays similar to Koshka, wanting to jump into the fight when he gets the speed boost from his allies, but then fall back and get the speed boost again and then jump back in, kind of dipping left and right. But Tony with the trash talk can just keep him locked into the fight and just get him shut down really fast.
And that's what we saw yesterday. With you, if you can match up that Tony with a Baptiste, you have that really strong close range CC that you can lock people down and keep them really close to your team and just destroy them. So that's one of the very strong things about the Tony, as well as that Bada Boom just displays the whole team. And we see a Maylene pickup. I think this is a great pickup for NA Rejects, and it will greatly increase their versatility in their roster. Not their roster, in their lineup, so that they can provide a lot of damage and they can get around and kite a lot better than they did the first game. And with that Fortress, I definitely see this being a lot closer game than it was last game. But I'm not 100% sure with that Kinetic pickup whether it's going to be on the same character on Yuji playing it. So we'll see what happens. Hammers does pick up that Grace, which is definitely a strong top laner as well as a support, and they pick up that Black Feather. So the Black Feather most likely is going to be up in this top lane.
Yeah, definitely. And it's going to be interesting to see whether you play these characters, because so far the lineup that they have on NA Rejects is so versatile. Lyra, we've seen played mid incredibly well, obviously as roam incredibly well. Samuel has seen some play mid lane, top lane, and even jungle. Grace, who obviously, as we've mentioned before, can be an incredibly strong top laner supporter, and Blackfeather has seen support. I've seen him jungle, I've seen him top, I've even seen him in the bot lane from time to time. So it's going to be really interesting to see where they want to play these characters out, because they have so much versatility in them.
Yeah, so this Fortress with the Arden pickup, it can be either flexed into that roam or jungle position, with the Arden being flexed into either a top lane or the captain position. So it's interesting to see where they're going to put these heroes It's definitely good to have that Arden as well, whether it's going to be in the top position or as a roam, just because as a Vanguard buff will able to keep you alive and make you be able to stay up with that Lyra healing potential.
Yeah, absolutely. And if it's gonna be Samuel mid against mid lane, Baylane's gonna have a really hard time early on, in my opinion. Just I played quite a bit of Maylene in the first 2 patches she was out. And it's a bit of a surprising last pick that I've seen coming out here. But the Maylene is something incredibly weak early on. And it's something that you really need. We've seen a few different item builds, but the last patch really kind of put her down even further. She was really, really strong in 3.2. 3.3, we saw a bit of a nerf where I felt she was a bit more balanced, and 3.4 here, we see even further her being pushed down and shut down even further.
So now the draft has concluded, we're going to take a quick break to hear a message from our sponsor. Well, hello and welcome. We are back on the Sovereign Rise as we get ready for the second game of NA Rejects versus Hammers Esports. And today we're going to have NA Rejects on the blue side with Hammer Esports on the red side. So it's currently 1-0 in Hammer's favor as we get into the game. And draft-wise, what do we think? Hammers has 2 of the newer heroes, but overall, I personally really enjoy the NA Rejects composition. I definitely see it as a stronger composition compared to Game 1, and possibly even a stronger composition to Hammers in this game too.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's got more of those meta picks that you were talking about in the last game there, that they needed to pick up more of a meta composition, and it seems like they did just that in this game. Every character we've seen played quite often, picked or banned here, and yeah, it's just it's quite interesting seeing that there looks like Dranami is picking up the flicker, and it looks like we have Hammers going for that early weapon buff in the bottom. Looks like North American Rejects want to contest it here, but they are unable to get in, and looks like Sean may go down, but Imperial Sigil from Chaos. Oh, and the beautiful block there, blocking the kinetic shot coming out.
This is exactly what I was talking about with NA Rejects and what they need to be doing. And with having such a stronger roam pickup with this Lyra, is with an Adagio, they would not have survived that fight. But with that Lyra, they're able to survive that fight and not give over that first blood and lose that early game gold lead.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that. And they countered, taking the weapon buff on their own. Papa John almost goes out, and oh wow, Flicker sees him there. He didn't even see Flicker coming invis right there. Dranami picking it up. Yeah, first blood coming out here.
A little
That was
revenge between Drami and Papa John, from Papa John taking up his Reza from last game.
yeah, that's got to be exactly what it is here. He said, you know what, you're going to play Reza, and I'm just going to go ahead and play Ficker and show you I can dominate on anything.
He's currently 1-0, so he definitely is the man of the match, and we'll see if he can continue it through this game too, as they are up 2-0 in Hammer's favor.
Yeah, and starting this game, it looks like they are starting off 2 kills. Gold League is still pretty close, but they're already up 2 kills to nothing.
Yeah, so NA Rejects have a stronger composition. They had a little bit of a stronger early game, but they're giving over some more kills that they weren't giving up last game. So it's a more aggressive game than it was last game. It was more passive in game 1, but it's still looking like a game might go in the favor of NA Rejects just because of their composition, but that can always change throughout the game just because of people's mechanical skills and what they do with their builds. And as we look at the builds right now, we don't see anything crazy or out of the ordinary from both teams. Papa John is still sitting on 3, actually 4 tier 1 items, so he definitely needs to go shop and spend up that 500 gold.
Oh, and we just saw Papa John trying to go in and take out Mixi. He almost had it, but the Vanguard coming out from Peterson just saved his life there, and in the meantime they took down Papa John, which was quite a bold move, but I guess that's kind of how you're really supposed to play Reza, you know, making those risk and reward plays, really kind of taking it all.
Yeah, he is a very strong early game hero, but if you continue to die and go 2-0 in this first 4 minutes, he's no longer an early game hero that can be utilized in these matches. So you got to make sure that you're playing him to his best ability and knowing when to engage and know when to not engage. You need to know your limits as a player and as a hero, so that you can win these early game engagements.
Yeah, absolutely. It just seemed like he kind of forgot that he didn't quite have his aftershock yet. Thought he was able to get that burst, but you know, didn't quite get him taken down. So it's
You
just
see Sean dropping this bottom down here to Mixi. So this is not what you want to be doing as NA Rejects. You want to stay alive, and if you have to play passive, so be it. But you can't be losing this gold lead and already be down nearly 4K with hammers pushing down and doing damage already on your first tier turrets under 5 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's looking like they sent Yugi top to go ahead and hold back Janami here. We got a little bit of gauge going in bottom. Looking like they're just trying to dominate the jungle. They are just trying to keep every last bit of gold they possibly can out of NA Rejects' hands.
Exactly. It's just making up that gold lead, and they're doing that. They're down less than 2K now, and we do get a little small fight here between Archaic and Mixi and Sean X. Ali Pearson does come in to help with that Arden, and the Lyra does drop there. So Lyra is good at keeping heals, but she can't heal up your team if she's not alive. So you got to make sure to disengage a lot faster than that. When you see that third man rotation down, and you already are being pressured in the lane with your minions.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sean trying to get a little bit of poke damage here on Mixi again, and it looks like Mixi's going to take him down, even under his turret here. And wow, that heal barely saving his life. That was great timing from Peterson here, just waiting until the last second to get the most value out of the fountain there.
Exactly. Perfectly timed. That's what we want to see out of these top tier gameplays, and that's what we are going to see as we continue this NACL season, and as we look into the VPL season and the Scoundrel tournament as well. We want to see this top tier gameplay, and that is what we're going to see, is those perfectly timed abilities, and those are the teams who are going to make it through to the next match and who are going to win it 2-0.
Yeah, let's go ahead and see what we got. I'm really hoping that we don't see a 2-0. I'd really like to see it come down to a third game. Personally, I'd really like to see NA Rejects coming out, and we do see the Engage coming out, getting their first kill of the game, getting themselves on the map here, and taking down the Malign.
It was very funny in that situation. Papa John did an exceptional job making sure he got the kill, but as soon as Maylene went invis, Papa John had no idea what happened. He was so confused. He was like, "Where'd she go?" And then she reappears. So that's one of the great things about Maylene is she can survive those team fights by timing it perfectly when she disappears, and surviving that damage that would have killed her. In the end, she does go down. It was about a 4-man rotation on a 4-to-2 rotation right there. So they were expected to lose at least one, and they did a good job at getting back to their turret. But NA Rejects, to condone them, they still put down some damage on that mid lane turret, and they have the mid lane turret advantage. So we'll see what happens as we continue to see NA Rejects improve throughout the season and this game.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something that I'd really like to see here. Like specifically this game, I'd like to see them just kind of turn it around here. I mean, they're down 4K gold at 8 minutes. 1 to 6 kills. Already lost their bot turret. So I want to see them turn it around here, and I want to say they're going to pick up the win, as we were talking about before, because their composition just looks so great. But it seems like it's just not quite going to catch on. They're still making a lot of those risky plays, making a lot of those moves that they need to be careful of and not take as many risks, but they don't seem to be stopping it. And in the meantime, Hammer's taking down the Ghostwing. Beautiful rotations there.
That Ghostwing's going to put him up almost 3,000 gold. So this is not what we want to see from NA Rejects. They had the same issue in Game 1. Objectives is the name of the game in 5v5 as a fight breaks out right here between Yuji and Hammers. The great stun right there.
Yeah, that was absolutely beautiful. And Toph and Yugi both just barely staying out with their lives there.
Exactly.
That was wonderful. And we see a little bit of engage here on the top. It's Papa John versus Janami here. Janami trying to push down that turret, and Papa John's clear just manages to be a little bit too strong for him to get too much damage on it there. Meanwhile, the rest of the team here seems to be wanting to push that mid lane. Janami has rotated down, just trying to get that vision moving around in his stealth there. And they do manage to get that turret. Janami maybe picking up a solo kill here. Papa John forced to use his detonator out. In the meantime, we did go ahead and see Archaic taking down Sean.
Yeah, Sean and Lost Boy are both down in that situation. And Papa John drops right down there to Janami with a little taunt right there. So this Flicker is just a little troll. But he can be troll if he's good. That's okay. That's the name of the game. So we see 2 turrets go down in the mid lane. And this is not what you want as NA Rejects. You want to stay in this game longer. You want to win this game. You need to win this game to take it to Game 3. And to do so, you can't be giving up these objectives so freely and be getting caught out. You need to have better communication as a team. We see them trying to capitalize on this Janami up here by himself, but they're not able to focus on the target and get to them in time.
Yeah, they are just not able to make any moves everywhere. Like we were saying before, Hammers is just in their jungle all the time, and they just don't have, they previously didn't have the vision. Now it looks like they have, 2 wards on the top. We see, one kind of was, in the bot down there. It looks like it's about to expire by the Ghostwing, but it's just not quite enough vision in their own jungle to know where Hammers is going to be. And that's really one of the things that is really great, I think, about Flicker. Being able to just deny your enemy team all the vision that you can.
Exactly. They're just really good rotations coming out of Hammers. They're sticking together, they're calling each other out when they see the enemy, and they're getting each other to meet up and capitalize on it and get these kills and get these turrets. As we see this top lane turret with 3 to just Yuji by himself and Papa John running away, they take another turret and they make it 9 turrets to 5. So this is not what you want to be doing, and we got to see some engagement. We want to see some aggression and some better rotations as Mixi goes into a 1v4 and still escapes with his life.
Yeah, that is not what you want to be seeing there, especially on Kinetic. If you're going in 1v4, you should be expecting to just die immediately, but they have the gold lead, they have the communication and the rotations that he's not afraid. He just walks right into the middle of the enemy and just teaches them, who's really the Papa in this game.
Exactly. uh, that Ali Peterson gauntlet was very poor in my opinion. It was a waste of a gauntlet, but in the end, they do get that ghost swing because they were able to distract them in that top lane, which was good by them. So I guess it's not exactly a big waste of that gauntlet. And they're going to go right for this Black Claw. If NA Rejects does not contest this Black Claw, I predict it is game over for them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And again, talking about rotations, that was just beautiful. Just stopping mid for a second to push them back, and then quickly just 4 of them rotated up to Blackfly, and they did take it. No contest by NA Rejects whatsoever. We have the engage, Maylene taking them down. Hammers all pretty low, but they're managing to pick them off one by one. It seems like the team doesn't quite know whether or not to stay or engage. It seems like some of them want to take the fight, some of them wanted to back out.
And Papa John's does get caught out there with his recall, is not able to escape, and this is an ace for Hammers Esports, and this is going to be game over. My prediction for Hammers Esports, I don't see them coming back into this game with nearly a 10k gold deficit as Hammer Esports pushes down on the Crystal. And NA Rejects, it is so long, goodbye. It is a 2-0 in Hammer Esports' favor. It was a good showing by Hammers Esports, and NA Rejects definitely had the stronger draft coming into game 2, but they were not able to execute on it, and they just got outplayed consistently with a 1-14 loss here, with Papa John being the only one to pick up a kill. So, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, you know, it really goes to show that it's not always about your composition. I don't know why I couldn't say that word there. It's not always about the composition of your team. It goes to show that really good communication and good rotations are what's going to be the name of the game here in Vainglory. And that's just, it's nice to see that it's not always about, you know, how many meta characters that you have. You know, it's more about the communication between your team and your ability to play objectives effectively, which is always nice, versus some of the other games out there are really about, you know, playing what's meta or else it's an instant lose. But just didn't seem like NA Rejects head was in it this game. They just didn't seem to really kind of catch that traction and make any kind of plays going out left or right.
Yeah, for sure. So it was definitely overall a great game. We definitely saw an off-meta pick with that flicker on Hammer's side of the Drunami. And I want to thank all 131 of you for tuning into this NACL cast today. It's been a great 2 matches. In the end, it went 2-0 in favor of Hammers. Thank you all for tuning into this match this week. We will have matches consistently throughout this coming week and this weekend. So make sure to stay tuned. Make sure to hit that follow button for NACL and Twitch Prime. Twitch Prime is a free subscription with your Amazon account. So make sure to hit up NACL with that free Twitch Prime so that we are able to continue to cast and can continue to host these amazing tournaments, as well as a thank you to our sponsors, as well as to I'm Just April for streaming this game and being able to do that, as well as for our casters today. I want to thank everyone for being able to come out and support us so we can continue to do this and continue to make Vainglory Esports great again. Do you have any last comments for us?
I'm just surprised by the shutout game here today, and it's something that I'm kind of at a loss for words at the moment, but I do want to thank our sponsors, Aporia Customs here. They do have some lineup here from NACL. If you guys want to go ahead and check it out, you can go to aporiacustoms.com/NACL, and you can go ahead and check out some of the items we got going on there. But yeah, I'm just at a loss for words at this game myself.
Well, I think at that, we're going to end this stream. Congratulations